Hotline. Congressman Mike Johnson is here. Mr. Mike, welcome back once again. Always. Thanks for taking time for us.
Yes, I appreciate the time, and it does seem like we're talking a lot the last couple of weeks. There's a lot going on.
Mike, I'm just going to start by telling you, I've got two sons. One's in the Marines, one's just gotten out, and the tragedy for these families, I don't know what to say. What do you say to people who have lost a loved one who's there for us all?
Well, first we say thank you. I mean, our prayers are with our troops and our allies and friends and all those on the ground in Afghanistan. All of this was totally predictable, totally avoidable. Such an extraordinary tragedy, Aaron, and it's going to continue, unfortunately, because we have no leadership in the White House and really among the majority party in Congress. We are taking drastic measures right now. I'm introducing a bill today to designate the Taliban as a state sponsor of terrorism, to require the U.S. State Department and the Secretary of Defense to take the steps to do that.
But we're cooperating. We're cooperating with the Taliban for security at the airport. How crazy is that, Mike?
It's crazy. Yesterday was the deadliest day for our troops in a decade. We had 108 people killed. Of course, 13 American soldiers, 18 others are seriously injured. The Taliban is running checkpoints, right? Did they allow these suicide bombers through? I mean, this is a very important question. They are a terrorist organization themselves. ISIS-K is claiming responsibility, but it's like having two bad cops in charge. The Taliban is trying to play nice. They're trying to put a facade on this, and there's a real simple reason for that. They need money from the international community to run this new country they've just taken over, okay? There's hundreds of millions of dollars at stake. And they know that if they act like terrorists that they are, if they do it right now in the next few days, they're not going to get that funding. And so they're trying to pin the responsibility on someone else. But they themselves are at least partially responsible for this. Now, you heard President Biden yesterday say, I bear responsibility for all this. Well, he does. In the second breath, he tried to blame Donald Trump, which is absurd. I mean, this is going to go on and on, y'all. We have real and active threats continuing today there in the perimeter of the airport there. Thousands remain behind enemy lines, and Joe Biden is sticking to this arbitrary August 31 deadline, inexplicably. Right now we have serious concern about terrorist events here on the homeland, of course. We're coming up 2 weeks away from the anniversary of 9/11. Large sporting events are beginning. We're going to jamborees tonight here in the district, right? When you're gathering people together and you know that you've had dangerous terrorists come through over that border, we don't know what they're plotting, when. We've never been in a more weakened position, I don't think, possibly in my lifetime, at least in recent times, and we have got to get control of the situation.
Mr. Mike, speaking of money, in probably about a week or so, the Taliban's going to have a bunch of American hostages. And we've sort of touched on this in previous conversations. A week ago, they were saying there were 12 to 15,000 Americans still in Afghanistan. Now the number being tossed around by the Biden administration is 1,500. My question was, how did they get 13,500 people out in 6 or 7 days? And my point was, O'Hare barely handles that kind of traffic. Do you have a sense of how many Americans still are in the country, and is that 1,500 number accurate?
I don't think it is, Robert. I mean, and we have learned in this Congress over the last 7 months, we can't trust a thing that the White House tells us. It's spin. Joe Biden will say one thing. We'll go into a classified briefing with Pentagon officials and Joint Chiefs of Staff and Secretary of Defense and get a completely different read on the situation. So the bottom line is they were acknowledging just a couple of days ago they didn't know how many Americans were there. Suddenly they have an accurate count now. They know where everybody is. I mean, it defies reason and common sense. And most in the mainstream media will not call them on it. I mean, thankfully you have a lot of the media outlets reporting some of the truths, at least on the tragedy that's going on, but they refuse to press the Biden administration like they did the previous administration, right? If Donald Trump was in charge right now, there'd be inquest and all kinds of crazy things. They're not doing that to this president. They're being very kind and diplomatic when they ask him questions. And it's, he said yesterday in his presser to the people responsible for the suicide bombings yesterday, we will hunt you down and make you pay. Oh, well, that's tough talk on a teleprompter. Come on. How? How are we going to do that? We're not going to have any troops there. We have no allied Afghan army to assist because they've been completely eviscerated. I mean, he's making empty threats, and the international community knows it. Our adversaries and our enemies are mocking us and laughing about it, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and our allies are losing confidence in us. And we, as we've said before on this program, and I say all the time, a strong America is good for everybody in the world. And if we are perceived to be weak, everybody's in trouble. Terrorists and tyrants rise up, and that's what we're seeing right now.
Mike, should we be striking there now in retaliation? Should we be sending bombers?
We have a bill pending. Yesterday, Kevin McCarthy, State Police, our leadership team, called on Speaker Pelosi to call the Congress back immediately, reconvene us, because we just came home a couple days ago. We have a bill to prohibit the withdrawal of our troops until every single American is out of Afghanistan. That is the mission, period. End of story. Every Republican would vote for this. I think now many of our Democrat colleagues would. Many who are in the problem solvers, moderate group, they've all said they would go along with it. We have the vote. But we have to get Speaker Pelosi to step up and lead. She was giving speeches yesterday about equity and women's equality stuff in California. Come on. Come on. It is inexcusable. And we're doing everything we can to force it. We're the minority party. That's the only card we have to play. The legislation is pending, and we need Congress to step up and lead because the White House will not do it. And now people are dying because of it.
Congressman Mike Johnson, thanks so much for your time. Please pray for those families. It's a difficult time.
Absolutely. Thank
you, Mr. Mike. Great